All right, so get started here. I'm Professor Lantis. This is ECON B251, Introduction to Economics for Business 1. So I've got the syllabus pulled open here. I've got the first kind of set of slides, and I'm accessing those through Canvas, right? So everything we do in this class will live on Canvas. That's how I'm going to be. All the files I show you will all be on there. So when you go to the home page, you'll kind of see this broken down by modules, or essentially week to week. The syllabus and the first week of slides are currently posted there. You can also find this under the Files tab, right? So you'll kind of notice I have the first few modules up there. You can't see them yet because I don't have them published. But I do have kind of this module 1 materials posted. I also have the syllabus that you should be able to see. So the syllabus is here. It's on the home page under a link. And then under module 1, every single week, excuse me, and if I was on a different computer, you could see this, but I'll post what shows as the skeleton slides. So this will be what I post every week, typically before we start class on that material, right? So you'll have kind of your skeleton slides that you'll see show up. So for instance, this is week 1, module 1. Next week is week 2, module 2. After class on Thursday, I'll put up week 2's slides. Now I'll call them week module 2 slide skeleton, which means I'm leaving some things out, right? At the end of the week, once we've covered the material, I would then post kind of the completed version of the slides, which is why you see kind of 2 sets for week 1. I'm posting them simultaneously just to kind of show you, like, there will always be a skeleton version of the slides that we cover throughout the week. And then after, I'll post kind of the completed version of the slides that might have been missing some things I didn't want you to see before we covered stuff in class, okay? Every single week, I'll also put up an outline of the different topics we're going to be covering in that module, as well as a set of practice problems. So every week, and I'll go more in depth into this in a little bit, we're going to have weekly module quizzes. So before you take those quizzes, I'm going to give you a set of questions that you can review that look very similar to that. So I've got the practice problems here. I've also got, whoops, let's see if I can click on it here. I'll also post a set of the practice problems where I tell you what the correct answer is, right? So it's probably best is to work through those practice problems without knowing the answer first, then see which ones did I get right, which ones did I get wrong. Those are ones I need to make sure, okay, why did I get it wrong? Okay. So I'll post these every single week prior to us covering that material. So every single week, you'll have the skeleton version of the slides, the outline, and the practice problem and answer key posted before we even cover that material. So after Thursday's class, you'll see all of this pop up for week 2 modules. Right? Week 1 is already, everything's already up there. Okay. Now all that's under the files tab. Once again, after class Thursday, I'll have that module 2 set to release, which will have all of those things that I just mentioned. Okay. But if you want to follow along today, we're under these module materials. We've got you could either do the skeleton or the complete version for this first week. It's really kind of the same thing. Get your practice problems. You can also always find those from the home page, which defaults. Oh, where is it at? You can have it down here somewhere to the modules page. Oh yeah, there it is. Modules, where I kind of put all of those files, links to them under each kind of week's category. Right. So now we just have module 1. Next week we'll have module 2. Okay. So I'm using this version of the slides. So we'll go here and kind of get going. Okay. So if at any point today, as I'm talking, I can talk a lot, especially today, I want to make sure we get a lot of things out of the way so we can kind of start with material next class. Okay. If any questions at any point in time, make sure you raise your hand, stop me. Don't feel there's no bad questions, right? I want to make sure we have everything clear after today about course expectations. Okay. So, excuse me. We will be using a book for this class, right? So it's an e-text. It's not a physical version. We're going to be doing that through this Top Hat platform. In class, I'll be using Canvas to administer quizzes. Also outside of class, we'll be using Canvas for quizzes, discussion boards, things I'll kind of talk about here in a little bit. So you need to be able to access Canvas, whether that's with the laptop, tablet, phone, and you have to do that in class as well. All right. So every single class, you have something you should be able to access Canvas with in class, right? And then we'll be using this e-text for different assignments. I'll walk through later how you get kind of registered for that and what those assignments will look like. You're also going to, I put up this additional link. This is just more help files. I try to along the way, especially today, give you like different links to things that I'll never even open this or reference it in class, but it's an additional kind of website that I think has some pretty helpful stuff for introduction to microeconomics courses. Okay. You'll also need a basic four-function calculator. So in class, we'll be using some in-class quizzes. The level of math we're doing should be nothing more than you need to do addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. So you should be able to pull up a calculator that you have on your phone. You should be able to use, like I said, a dollar store calculator would work. All right. That's all you should ever need in class. Now, when it comes to the in-class exams, do you think I'm going to let you use the calculator on your phone? No, there's a lot of other things on your phone as well, right? Like the internet and AI. So when it comes to the exams, you have to have a very basic calculator. How basic does it need to be? I basically usually say anything that's a non-graphing calculator, anything that doesn't have the ability to store anything in it, right? Now, I'm not going to hand check every single one, but if I see you with something that has graphing capabilities, I'm going to assume that you're likely doing what? If I tell you you can't use it and you're using it, I think you're probably using it too cheap, right? So use as rudimentary of a calculator as you possibly have or own. Like I said, if you want to, I don't want to try to increase your cost. College is already expensive enough, but you could go get a very basic calculator from like the dollar store, right? That would have more than enough capabilities for what we're going to do in this class. Nothing crazy, okay? So you'll need that. I already mentioned I'll post kind of those skeleton lectures. So going into class every week, you'll want to have those skeleton slides pulled up, but we'll kind of be going through. I'll be adding some things in that we don't have in the skeleton slides. What I'll also do quite a bit, well, I'll mention that in a second. Every single class, right, as we kind of work through these slides or work through material, you'll see it kind of running in the background now. I'm going to try to find a better way to kind of get this out of our way, but I needed some of the space up here. I record every single lecture, right? Now, when I say I record it, this classroom's not set up great, and I'm trying to talk loud enough. Am I loud enough in the back for you guys right now? They're supposed to have a wearable microphone for me and any other professor here. There isn't one here today. It's the beginning of the semester. We'll give them a break. But if hopefully I'll have that. The audio will be a little bit better. But if they can't get that in here on a day like today, I walk around, I move around. This is what's capturing the audio. So the audio is not going to be a perfect substitute, right, for being in class. All right. It'll record most of what I say, and it's going to always be recording whatever shows up on the screen from the computer. But what I also do in this class, not really today, but kind of moving forward when we start to go through more material, I switch over from the computer to this dot cam and do a lot of work, draw a lot of graphs here. This is not captured in that Zoom recording. Okay. So I don't want these recordings for you to think, oh, I don't have to show up to class. I can just go on and watch it. No, it's meant to be an additional resource you can go back to like, oh, what did Professor Lannis say about that? Or, oh, I knew he was like kind of walking through the slides. I want to go back and rewatch that. Or if you do have to miss class, it's not a perfect substitute, but at least you have something, right? Now, when it comes to any work I do on here on the dot cam, that's what you need to be in class to get, right? If you miss class, hopefully start to kind of network, maybe be able to get those notes from someone else. Anytime I'm doing work, anytime I switch over here, if it's not in the slides, what do you think is a really good thing to do? Be writing this down, or I saw you take a picture of it with your phone, right? Now, I would write it down because I think when we work through these graphs and build these models, there's some research on this, like the actual is true with words as well, like taking notes, physical notes. There's something about the physical movements that synapses in your brain, biology is not my expertise, but it's like people actually retain more information when they have like a physical movement associated with it. So writing down things that we're doing in class, drawing out the graphs for yourself, that's going to be really beneficial, and also things that aren't going to be in the recordings. Okay. But those non-perfect substitutes, somewhat poor substitutes for class, will be here on this playlist. So this link is in this first week of slides. It's in that Word document of the syllabus. You can also very easily go to YouTube. I won't create links on Canvas. Oh, geez. Okay. I won't create links for these on Canvas. But if you search, you can use the link that's for the Zoom playlist, or you can just search my name. Here's my smiling face. You should only be able to see my current 3 playlists, which I guess if you're interested in higher level statistics, you can go to this playlist. But here are the two different B251 sections I have. Same information should be in both. It's just that the recording I post to this section's playlist will be the recording that I had from this section, right? So you can always kind of just search on YouTube, Professor Landis, and find these pretty easily. The links are in the syllabus and this first week of slides. You can always go back there. And this is going to be where I'm uploading all of these class recordings, okay? Any questions on that before I keep moving here? Once again, I'll try to do like check-ins. Sometimes I get on a roll. So if if you have a question, raise your hand, stop me. So what do you care about, right? How are you going to get the grade that you want in this class? Okay. So I've got, I don't know, maybe bad news, but this is the way the world is, right? A large majority of this class is coming from exams. Okay. So 72% of your overall grade is going to come from 3 exams. So we're going to have 2 in-class midterms and a final exam. Okay. So the 2 in-class midterms are worth 22.5. The final is worth 27. The reason why is because that final has more questions, so 5 more questions, but we have a longer period of time. It's also, by the time we get to the end of the semester, it's a little bit more difficult of material and a little bit more comprehensive, and that's why it's weighted a little bit more than those 2 in-class midterm exams, okay? Excuse me. So exams are going to be a large majority of this class's grade, okay? That means take them very seriously. I take them very, very seriously. On the weeks where we have an in-class exam, they will be on Thursdays. That Tuesday, the class before it, all I do in class is work through a practice exam. We just do review. I give you that practice exam more than a week in advance, right? So I give you resources. I'm a main resources. My office hours that week are a big resource. Take these exams very seriously because they're, over 2/3 of your grade in this class. Okay. Now, I'll also mention here, the exams are not cumulative. So I know someone out there is going to ask me this question later on the semester, even though I'm saying it now. They are not cumulative, but I would say they are comprehensive. So the first exam will be over the first 4 weeks or the first 4 modules. The next exam will be over the next 4 modules. The final will be only over the last 4. So I'm not going to go on the final, ask you the types of questions that I was asking you week 1, week 2, or week 3. However, every week, everything we do in this class, we are continuously building on what we learned before. So it's not cumulative in the sense I'm not going back and asking you the types of questions I did in week 3 or 4, but we'll start talking about things like demand shifts in week 3. We are still talking about demand shifts, but just how they apply to markets by the time we get to the end of the semester, week 12, week 13. So it's not cumulative, but this class builds on it. Okay. So those are our exams. I've got a slide later on that has the dates. You can find those dates in the syllabus as well. I'll kind of point that out later on. But just to kind of give a summary of where your grade comes from, 12% is going to come from weekly quizzes, right? So every single week, we'll cover that week or that module's material. You can think of the word week and module really interchangeable. So whatever that week's kind of material is, we'll cover it. After class Thursday, I'll post the quiz on Canvas, okay? And then we'll have till the following Monday to complete it. So I'll go through this a little more in depth here in a second. But we're going to do that every single week. We have new material for a total of 12 Canvas quizzes. That'll be accounting for 12% of your overall grade, right? And then we're going to have these Canvas discussion assignments. I'll talk more in depth about these in a second, 10%. And then weekly module readings will be 2%. In-class quizzes are 4%. So these are kind of weighted a little bit lower, but I'll kind of stress the importance of them here in a second. So these Canvas quizzes, I said we're going to have one every single week. We have new material. So after class this Thursday, I'm going to post the quiz and it gets posted. So I guess technically we end at 10:50. I have them all set to be released at 11 a.m. All right. So at 11 a.m., that week 1 quiz will pop up. In fact, if you go to Canvas, you can't see it right now, but it's there, ready to be published, right? After Thursday's class, it'll pop up on Canvas. Once you open it, you have 60 minutes to complete it, okay? And it is open until the end of the day on Monday. So after this week, we'll have covered Module 1 material. Next Tuesday's class will start with Module 2 or Week 2 material. So you basically have until the end of the day next Monday to get on and complete the quiz over Module 1. And that'll kind of keep going every single week, right? So every week we'll have a quiz that was associated with that week's material. Now, they're due by the end of the day Monday, which if you want all 60 minutes means you need to start it by, let's do it 11:59 p.m., you would have to start it by 10:59 p.m., right? Now, I would not suggest waiting that late to start it. In fact, I have a lot of students who would say like they will generally try to take it like before the weekend. So I'll talk about some collaborative learning session stuff later on, but usually they would like, I post it on Thursday, they review Thursday, review Friday, and like try to take it Friday a little bit later in the day, just so like they already have it done prior to the weekend. I don't have to worry about it. Now you get whatever works for you. Everyone's different, right? But you will have to the end of that following Monday to get it done. So 4.5 days, however you count it, to get on. But once you start, you only have 60 minutes. You can't pause and like restart the quiz, right? So these quizzes are meant to like test your understanding of that week's material. But do you think I'm going to be in every single one of your dorm rooms policing whether or not you have notes out? I can't, right? So these are open note, right? Look at your notes throughout the week. Have things open, available to you. Have the e-text up and open. Have all your materials in front of you while you're taking that quiz. I want you to get as many points as possible. The quizzes are meant to be lower stakes so that you kind of work through these questions. Now, eventually, once you get to the midterm exams, you'll need to be able to answer those types of quiz questions without notes, right? But at least early on, I know this is new material. I would highly expect you to have things pulled open for you, right, in front of you as you're taking these quizzes, okay?
How long are the quizzes?
So each one should be 12 questions, right? So, you know, if you think 5 minutes per question, some of the questions are relatively easy, might take you a minute or two. Some of them might take you closer to 10. You know, some people get done with these quizzes like in 20 minutes, right? So they're meant to be, if you've got those practice problems and you've already worked through those, a lot of the questions are going to seem relatively, I shouldn't say easy, but they will seem easier